Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. In the last part we started off the game and now we're in our first dungeon inside the Deku Tree, which is honestly one of the most clunky dungeon names in the series, just because not many get to be that long aside from maybe the city in the sky, but we'll talk more about Twilight Princess when the time comes. Either way, we got a Deku Nut. On the select item screen you can set it to the C buttons, and you can set it to C and try throwing it. It'll flash and stun the enemy. Deku Nuts are the rare case in this game of what's technically a support item in that it doesn't have any damage purpose. It's purely for stunning the enemy for an extra period of time. For instance, first off, look at this wall. The vines growing on it give it a rough surface. Maybe we can climb it, Link. Indeed, any rough surface you can generally climb in the game. Ladders, rock walls, vines. You can climb a lot of stuff in this game. There's a few walls that you can climb that aren't marked as such, which is just kind of odd. Before I continue on the nut topic, though, if you look over here, we can see a large chest. Large chests generally have very important items to that dungeon, which are generally relegated to one of three, technically four things later on. And the first one is the dungeon map. Press the start button to get into the subscreens, and look at the map subscreen. Blue chambers are places you've already visited. Your current location is the flashing room. Move the analog stick up and down to select the floor to view. And this is where we get to see that the Great Deku Tree is an oddly vertically structured dungeon for early on in the game. Usually, Zelda games' first dungeons are very flat and simple just to get you into the flow of things. You can open a door by standing in front of it and pressing the A button. Pay attention to what the action icon says. That's the blue icon at the top of the screen. As I was saying. But this one, they get rid of the flatness to instead focus more on the 3D aspect of the game, given this is the first 3D Zelda game. Deku Scrub. It'll hide in the grass if you get close to it. Bounce the nuts back if you need to. Ow, ow, ow. Forgive me, Master. If I give you a clue, will you let me live? When you jump off a high cliff, if you hold the analog stick forward, you'll roll on the ground when you land and won't get hurt from the fall. I can't guarantee it'll work, though, if the cliff is really, really high. Well, try it if you're feeling bold. That thing that Navi did there, where I read that enemy's icon. Whenever you Z-target an enemy, Navi, you can press C up with Navi to have her essentially give you a bio on the enemy, which will give you hints on how to defeat them, or... No, actually, that's generally it. How to easily defeat them. I don't do that much throughout the game just because it'll pad out the length of the game. And in this chest, we get our first important item, the Fairy Slingshot. On the select item subscreen, you can set it to the C buttons. Press C to take it out and hold it. As you hold C, you can aim with the analog stick. Release C to unleash a Deku Seed. If you want to shoot right away, when you first press C, hold down C a little longer to get a seed ready. This is our first projectile weapon, and the way they intend you to beat this room is to jump across the platform we saw at the start to get here and then shoot down the ladder with the slingshot. But I'm just going to run across it because I intentionally saved the platform for later. That is until I had to come back to this room later on, and actually I've already used some ammo. These are Deku Seeds. These are small hard seeds that you use as bolts for your slingshot. You can get ammunition from grass generally throughout the game. Because I actually forgot a chest in this room. This is a 100% run, and that means I'm grabbing every chest in the dungeons at the least. There might be a few I forget throughout the world every here and there, but generally speaking, I'm getting everything. And now I might as well show, just bring out your slingshot, shoot it at the ladder, and it falls down, and you got your way back up. Aiming in first person with the slingshot is a little bit awkward at first, as unless you're Z-targeting onto an enemy to start, the projectile weapons in this game don't have an outright aiming reticle, unless you're playing 3DS. The 3DS version smoothed out the graphics, rebuilt the game up entirely essentially, and boosted the frame rate from 20 to 30. But it also added some just neat little quality of life updates just to make the game play smoother, like gyro controls, even though I'm not a fan of that myself. And on the projectile weapons, they added a mark on the weapon that gives you a general idea of where your target is. I think they added like a little band around the center of the slingshot to give you an idea of where it was aiming. I think. It's been a while since I played 3DS, honestly. And on the topic of console, I should note I am playing the N64 release of this via emulator, mostly because of ease of access for recordings purposes, but it's also because I just find the N64 controller to be the most comfortable way to play this game, that out of the ways I can record it at least, because I don't like the C stick instead of the C buttons for the GameCube version. And that was a weird little thing we saw over there, behind this chest that contains a recovery heart, by the way. Hearts are the usual, they are your health. Run out of hearts, you die. This is a gold Skulltula. Upon killing it, it drops a Skulltula token. You destroyed a gold Skulltula. You got a token proving you destroyed it. As that pop-up I haven't edited on yet said, there are 100 of those located throughout the game. They are the major collectible for Ocarina. And I am getting all 100 across this LP, because this is a true 100% run. If you're going for more of a casual 100%, you only need to get 50 of them, but I'm going for all 100. And now it's time for another big chest, the last one of the dungeon. Most dungeons in the game have only 3 major chests, technically a 4th one later on again, but the 4th one's for stuff later on. This is the compass. Now you can see the locations of many hidden things in the dungeon. Now, the compass shows not only where the boss is on the map, but it also shows any chests on the map, as well if you look on the mini-map on the bottom right of the screen at any given point in time. It'll also show you where you are as the yellow triangle and where you came in from in the room as a red triangle. The compass is arguably one of the most important things for newcomers, as it just allows navigation to be so much easier, as you can easily tell which way's north, which way's south, so on and so forth. It's really useful. Also, as you just saw there, you can actually light Deku sticks on fire, and you need to do that a lot of times throughout the game to light up torches to open up doors. And it's at this point I realized I missed that chest down in the Slingshot Room, so I'm gonna quickly jump cut over there to get it. And by that I mean cut back up here, because I've already gotten it at this point. Alright, now for something that took me some time to figure out my first playthrough. There is a web there on the center of the first floor. We need to fall down all the way onto it to break it. Do not hold up on the analog stick like the Deku Scrub told us earlier. When you do that, otherwise the web will not break. And now, in this room, we got 2 more gold Skulltulas. Now, for the most part, areas have variant amounts of gold Skulltulas. Very few areas have the same amount. The only exception is the later dungeons in the game all contain 5, but the first few do not have that many per se. As well, I should note when it comes to gold Skulltulas, whenever you kill them, they become the token. There is a brief period where they are the token, but I do believe if you leave it there for too long, they regenerate back into the Skulltula. I believe that's a thing. Don't quote me on it. Honestly, it has been a while since I've let one last that long. Whenever you see a giant trapezoid protruding from the floor, that's a switch. Step on it, it does its thing. This one lights this torch, which we need to use a Deku stick to destroy the web on the other side of the room. There are a few different versions of switches throughout the game, namely the other one we're going to see a lot of is a blue switch that is pressure sensitive, but we'll get more into that when the time comes. Oh, and also if you leave a Deku stick on fire for long enough, it burns out, which kind of sucks, but oh well. Please forgive me, Master! I'll never do it again! If you spare me, I'll teach you something cool! You'll never beat my brothers up ahead unless you punish them in the proper order. The order is 2, 3, 1. 23 is number 1. Do you think I'm a traitor? There's a basketball joke to make about that. I think it's the guy from Space Jam, but honestly, I don't know sports. Whenever you see an eyeball switch like that, you need to hit it with a projectile in order to trigger it. The slingshot's all we got to do that right now, so go ahead and use it. After you get into the water, if you hold down A, you can dive. I bet there's some interesting things underwater. Sometimes yes, sometimes no, usually no. Link in the water is a bit odd as his momentum is a little all over the place. But the big thing to note about diving is the A button becomes a countdown. And that's just, it's weird. It seems like it's a timer, and it technically is. But instead of measuring how long you can be underwater for, it's measuring the depth at which you've dived. And once you've reached your maximum depth, you just automatically go back up. The diving controls are also kind of weird. Stand next to this block and grab hold of it with A. While holding A, you can push or pull it. If you stand next to the block and press A while pressing the analog stick towards the block, you can climb on top of it. Pay attention to what the action icon says. Context-sensitive actions. They're sensitive to context. The diving controls are a little weird, though, when you're underwater, as you're constantly moving forward. You have no control beyond that. And what I mean by that, to elaborate, is whenever you're diving, you're always propelled forward just because you're still diving. So you can't, like, when underwater, stand still or reverse direction very easily. You have to do the full, like, circle around to get a rotation in. And I'm thinking ahead a room or two. Now, the context-sensitive things on the action icon work relatively well in terms of how responsive they are. Usually, whenever you see it, it'll work. The only times it's a bit sticky are whenever you're actually grabbing or trying to push or pull a block, as sometimes the analog stick doesn't behave so well, and therefore you'll just kind of stand there being like, okay, come on, can I push and pull? Come on. That's mostly prevalent towards the latter portions of the game because there's more blocks to push and pull then, but still something important to note. Now, these things I'm shooting at right now are enemies that fall from the roof and then, or ceiling, and then hatch into, I believe they're called Goma larvae? But since I know they're there, I can take them out with a slingshot. The thing I should note about doing this, though, is that you need to aim for the portion that's touching the wall, as that's where the hitbox is. Anything else, you're just not going to do work with. Now, earlier, I believe, I forget who mentioned this already, even. You know, it's been like less than a part and a half. Whenever you light a stick on fire, you can put it away quickly by mashing the, either pressing A to put it away or swinging your sword. But I believe there's a weird element with the timer in that whenever you set it on fire, the timer starts then. And I believe you can actively reset it just by putting it back in the fire. Honestly, I've never tried because I'm always on a rush to set that on fire. Now, you may notice on the compass there in the map, on the bottom right, that there was another way to go in that room. We actively can't do anything in that room until we've beaten the second and third dungeons. We can enter that room with the second dungeon beaten, but I don't think we can actively do anything in there until the third one is. And now we're back in this room. We want to push the block down because you may notice to my right there is another web floor blocking the way. We need to set that web on fire with a torch that we make from the torch across the way. The only difference this time, though, is that you actively have to roll in order to set the thing on fire. It's a simple puzzle, but playing this as a kid, it took me longer than I'd like to solve. Because this was one of the earliest games I have memories of playing. I don't think it was my first game. That's between Mega Man X, Super Mario World, A Link to the Past, or Super Mario Brothers. I generally count this in with those, but honestly, it's been damn near 20 years at this point, so I have active trouble remembering which one of those it was, because they were all introduced to me by my brother within a period of about a week. And here's those particular Deku Scrubs the previous one told us about. We need to take them out in the order of 23 is number 1. If you're playing Master Quest, the hard mode version of this, so to speak, you have to do it blind, basically. How did you know our secret? How irritating! It's so annoying that I'm going to reveal the secret of Queen Goma to you. In order to administer the coup de grace to Queen Goma, strike with your sword while she's stunned. Oh, Queenie. Sorry about that. So let me get this straight. I beat you, and as a reward, you give me the idea of how to beat your boss, and you feel sorry about that? That just makes you a poor lackey. This room is suspiciously empty. Ah, crap. That's not empty at all. If you see something up there on the top of the screen, go into first person and look at it. Boss of the game is Goma, and there's a couple strategies you can take to this. The thing we need to attack is, obviously, as games have trained us now at this point, her eyeball. We can stun her either by shooting the slingshot into it or by using Deku Nuts. Deku Nuts is faster overall. And when she's stunned on the ground is when you can attack her. You can just do your sword slashes, and I recommend if you do that, you do the jump slash where you Z target and press A, which does double the damage, by the way. But I recommend instead bringing out the Deku Sticks and slashing, as the Deku Stick natively does 2 damage like the Kokiri Sword's jump slash. So that just means you're doing double the damage in half the time, essentially. And if you jump attack with the Deku Stick, which I actively forget to do, I believe, if you can at all, I honestly have trouble remembering when I'm not playing for some reason, you can do 4 damage. Oh no, you can do it, there we go. Attack-wise, she can try to swipe at you. She can go up to the ceiling when she's between her damage phases and try to lay some Goma larvae. But if you're quick enough, you can take them out before they hatch into their actual monster forms, bred from the eggs. Additionally, while she is laying eggs, I didn't know this as a kid, you can shoot her in her eye with the slingshot if your accuracy doesn't suck, to stun her even further. An easy boss, but could cause troubles to newcomers. And for beating the boss, a heart container spawns. Your maximum life energy is increased by 1 heart. Your life energy is also totally filled. The more hearts you get, the more HP you have, so you're going to want to grab one of these after every boss, although you could ignore them for challenge runs purposes. There'll be more ways of getting health later on as well, but we'll go over those when the time comes. Well done, Link. Thou hast verily demonstrated thy courage. I knew that thou wouldst be able to carry out mine wishes. Now I have yet more to tell ye. Wouldst thou listen? Again, basically every situation with like this is a but thou must, so just say yes, it's gonna save you some time. Now, listen carefully. A wicked man of the desert cast this dreadful curse upon me. This evil man ceaselessly uses his vile, sorcerous powers in his search for the sacred realm that is connected to Hyrule. For it is in that sacred realm that one will find the divine relic, the Triforce, which contains the essence of the gods. Before time began, before spirits and life existed, 3 golden goddesses descended upon the chaos that was Hyrule. Din, the goddess of power. Nehru, the goddess of wisdom. Farora, the goddess of courage. Din. With her strong flaming arms, she cultivated the land and created the Red Earth. Nehru poured her wisdom onto the earth and gave the spirit of law to the world. Farora, with her rich soul, produced all life forms that would uphold the law. The 3 great goddesses, their labors completed, departed for the heavens. And golden sacred triangles remained at the point where the goddesses left the world. Since then, the sacred triangles have become the basis of our world's providence. And the resting place of the triangles has become the sacred realm. Thou must never allow the desert man in black armor to lay his hands on the sacred Triforce. Thou must never suffer that man with his evil heart to enter the sacred realm of legend. That evil man who cast the death curse upon me and sapped my power. Because of that curse, my end is nigh. Though your valiant efforts to break the curse were successful, I was doomed before you started. Yes, I will pass away soon, but do not grieve for me. I have been able to tell you of these important matters. This is Hyrule's final hope. Link, go now to Hyrule Castle. There, thou will surely meet the Princess of Destiny. Take this stone with you. The stone that man wanted so much that he cast the curse on me. We got the Kokiri's Emerald. This is the spiritual stone of the forest, now entrusted to you by the great Deku Tree. The future depends upon thee, Link. Thou art courageous. Navi the fairy, help Link to carry out my will. I entreat ye, Navi. Goodbye. Let's go to Hyrule Castle, Link. Goodbye, great Deku Tree. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 3, our journey truly begins. See you guys then.